Chapter 8. Wrapping a bandage around his burned arm, Jarius sat on and against a rocky green floor and wall. This hole had only one way in and out.
You should learn more healing spells. You should concentrate harder on your part. Keep your psychic senses up and stop worrying about how I do things.
Jarius used his teeth to tear the bandage, which he folded into place on his arm. Bending his arm, he ensured it functioned correctly.
50 abysmal layers remain between us and Loth. How do you intend on killing this goddess?
With sarcasm in his voice, Jarius retorted,
With my Godslayer sword.
He stood up, holding his palms out. Materializing in his hands, that very sword appeared.
You couldn't even take on deity with that thing, and that was on the material plane. We will be directly in her domain. I know. Scan my thoughts. Look at my plan.
Jarius took off, sprinting down the one-way tunnel. After a moment, Dagon responded.
Yes, that might work. It is risky, but not nearly as risky as attacking her head-on.
A person-shaped shadow stood in his way. Jarius struck it down with ease. He smiled.
See? I know what I'm doing. We should run into the first one very shortly.
He nodded. Continuing to run down the tunnel, a swirling vortex, standing pool was just in front of him. Running in without slowing down, Jarius swung his sword upon exiting into another abysmal layer. His sword made contact with nothing. Dagon laughed.
I would have done the same thing. Anything could be waiting for us on the other side of these portals while we travel from abyss to abyss. Yes, anything can be,
came a voice both verbally and telepathically to Jarius. The mage stopped running. Holding his sword at the ready, he looked around. The wizard waved his hand, casting the spell, revealing everything near him. No more than 40 feet away, something floated.
The oddity,
Jarius remarked.
What is that thing?
Dagon asked.
The first major servant of Loth.
Pointing his sword at the monstrosity before him, Jarius quickly took note of the physical structure of the thing. It hovered in the air with no visible means of propulsion. Green and black layers encompassed the whole of it. Arms protruded from where one would expect arms to come from, except they were very thin, stubby, and baby-like. Where a mouth should be was nothing but a flat surface, showing no indication of any such orifice having ever existed. No legs extended from the base of this grotesquely shaped, unusual creature, yet it hovered above the ground at a height where legs would be if they were comparable to arms. Mucus dripped from the black and green layers. The shape of its body was so unusual that it could be compared to a jigsaw puzzle piece. Moving almost like water, the shape slowly altered the longer it was observed. Having solid black-green eyes, the creature stared at Jarius. A voice came from where a mouth should be, and it was heard once again, verbally and mentally. Loth has instructed me to give you the option to move on. The choice is yours. Just behind me is the next abyss. Why would it give us that option? Jarius walked around the creature without turning his back to it, having his sword constantly at the ready. Because I would be risking my life by challenging it. What is the benefit of killing it? Why would Loth care so much or so little about this thing? Because, answered the oddity, I can kill with a thought. Continuing to walk around this thing, Jarius never took his eyes off of those green eyes. I have already made eye contact with it. So? Take a guess what would happen if I averted my eyes now.
Damn it, I can feel it. It has already made psychic contact with you and is here with me now. That's right. And the only reason it has not already killed me is because Loth has given it that order. It now comes down to two factors.
Jarius stabbed his sword behind himself, killing a would-be stealth assassin without taking his eyes off of the oddity.
First, I would have to move faster than it can think if I decide to take him. Secondly, you would have to fight it on a psychic plane. Again, why would we even want to fight this thing? I saw you skip plenty of other demons.
Jarius frowned.
You already know. You read my plan in my mind.
Killing me would weaken Loth. She is so powerful. She is the demon goddess. She would lose my powers if I should die.
The oddity confessed without care. The oddity grew brighter as it spoke.
I can see your thoughts. You will die now.
A duplicate of the Godslayer sword stabbed down into the oddity's head. The abomination flopped to the ground, lifeless from the sudden attack. The sword vanished as the creature melted before his eyes.
You made that easy. It isn't dead, Dagon. It is still here. Yup. Time to do your part now.
Jarius turned to the next portal, proceeding to lead to the next abyss. Roskar Vonister and the god Metamind.
We had a deal, Roskar Vonister. Oh, did we? I honored my part of our little bargain. I told you everything you wanted to know about Garyx,
the dragon retorted. Stepping closer to the red dragon, the Metamind raised his hand, surrounding it with gray psychic energy. That energy swirled.
Well now, this is interesting. The dragon laughed. You will tell me what I want to know. How do I kill Garyx?
The god Metamind pointed at the dragon.
You do not need me as an enemy, but if you continue to approach me with this aggression, you will have exactly that.
Roskar Vonister pulled his body out of his cavern, stretching to prepare himself. His wings remained stretched out.
Two gods are weakening you. You cannot find your Godslayer sword, and you want to act as if you can command me? I am genuinely not surprised at how poorly you are faring.
Lowering his arm, the Metamind relaxed.
Correct. I do not command you.
The dragon in turn relaxed.
However, we do have a bargain. That we do. I have honored my end. You can kill Garyx with that weapon. You already know that I like that option.
Smiling, the dragon opened his mouth to speak. He paused, raising a claw.
Verschroos!
The dragon cast a spell. A puff of smoke surrounded him. The Metamind prepared to fight, having no clue what spell had been cast. Psychic energy flared around his body.
Relax,
the dragon coughed. With the smoke clearing, the dragon was nowhere in sight. Instead, there was a middle-aged man standing wearing red robes.
I simply changed forms.
Waving his hand, the Metamind dismissed the psychic energy.
I do not care what form you take. You ask me to betray my brother. Everything I told you was information you could have learned from virtually any intelligent source.
The disguised dragon began to pace back and forth with his new hand on his chin.
So I take a human form because a dragon should never betray his own. Contrary to how badly I treated him thousands of years ago, we are still blood.
The man pointed at the god before him.
Garyx, like any immortal, can be killed. You already knew this.
Continuing to point, he continued.
This cannot be a casual deal between you and I. Name your price.
While I am glad that our deal has been altered, you fail to understand the seriousness of your request. So I will throw a bone at you. He lowered his hand. then extended them both to their respective sides, imploring him to change his tone entirely. What I originally wanted was his divinity. The god made a surprised face. Roscarvenister pointed at him again. Yes, that is right, and I still want that. Only now, with this new information, the deal must be harder on your end. Why is that? Because, he shouted, Garyx wouldn't have cared about what I told you. In fact, he wanted me to tell you that much. However, this is very different. This is a line I can only cross on one condition. Get on with it. Not so fast. You see, up until this moment, I have been on the fence when it came to you and Garyx. I could deny you this information, and I would not incur the wrath of my brother. You have no idea how horrible that wrath would be. It wouldn't matter once I kill him. If, not when. Have you ever seen a dragon fear anything? No. Let that sink in for a moment. There's only one thing dragons fear, and that is the wrath of a dragon god. Garyx has already cursed me for bullying him as a wormling. He has denied me the dragon's right of ascension. So long as he lives, I can never join the heavens and be more than what I am now. He returned to pacing. Killing him would end that, and if you won, you would allow me to absorb his divinity, and we would go our separate ways. What's the problem? He stopped pacing and stared at the god in front of him. I am telling you the problem. Damn it, you haven't even considered the possibility that you might lose, have you? I am incapable of losing against this foe. The dragon stepped back in surprise. The sheer arrogance of you so astounds me. He shook his head. You can and will lose with that mentality. That is not your problem. It will be when you lose, if not when. The Metamind mocked. Now get on with it. I will take a chance with you. You appear to be a god of your word from what I have seen. So my first condition is I will have safe refuge in your heaven for as long as I desire. Done. Secondly, I still get his divinity. Agreed. And finally, he paused, looking at the Metamind. You will do something for me, not later, but now. The Metamind said nothing, allowing the dragon to talk. You will give me a whole lot of gold. Cocking his head in confusion, the Metamind chuckled. You are kidding. Nope, bring me treasure. How much? In human terms, I want 50 million gold. The eyes of the Metamind flashed. Psychic energy sparked out, striking the empty cavern behind the dragon in human form. The area became incredibly bright for an instant. The light cleared, and metal coins were heard. Roscarvenister looked to see his cavern overflowing with gold. His eyes lit up with excitement. Satisfied? Yes! Now tell me what we have agreed upon. Jumping into the gold and throwing it into the air with excitement, he briefly forgot what the Metamind said. Lightning struck the ground next to the dragon in human form. Roscarvenister jumped out of the gold, coming to his senses. Ah, yes. What can kill Garyx? I gave you a clue before. I told you the red dragons are weak against cold. However, being a god, Garyx is no longer vulnerable to normal cold. There have been dragonbane weapons in the past used to hunt down dragons. Garyx is immune to those as well. However, he paused, looking back at the gold, distracted once more. Lightning struck a second time, only closer. His clothing singed from the immediate proximity. Returning his attention back to this god, he responded, Yes, sorry. There's a blade. I mean a singular blade imbued with dragon's bane and magical cold. It is held by a powerful druid. Well, not powerful compared to yourself, but powerful compared to mortals. Garyx is very familiar with this weapon.
You will have to get to it before he does. It is deep in the southern forest. It will not be easy even for you. The sword has no name because the druid who made it views the naming of swords as frivolous. Is that enough information for you? The Metamind said nothing. He waved his hand, teleporting Ross Carvanister and himself away.
My gold!
Ross Carvanister screamed, stretching his hands out as he vanished. In the Laguna Tavern.
Stop!
Gray Clemo shouted. Junior Clemo looked at her puzzled. Why? We need to keep moving. She shook her head. We haven't encountered Red for hours now. Twinkle sheathed his weapons, and while taking a seat, he gave his input. Red has found us faster by learning our pattern of movement, and he has caught up with us with less time for us to rest.
Exactly,
Gray said, pointing at Twinkle. Magic sat down too. Is Red distracted by something? That guy wants us more than anything. He has 1,000,000 of himself. He would only need a few to get us, Junior added. Gray laid down in a booth. Well, I am taking advantage of this and resting. Junior, you take the first watch. 4 hours passed. She stood up.
Junior, are you okay?
Yeah, it's been quiet. I'm genuinely surprised.
You need to rest, brother.
The Clemo with the eye patch, bodily scars, missing pinky finger, missing ear, and glowing swords nodded his head. Without argument, he sat down, closing his eyes, and entered a meditation. Soon after, Twinkle and Magic stood up, and the three approached each other. I am surprised he has not come here. We always take refuge in this bar in Laguna, Magic said. Twinkle held his palms out, speaking. Yes, but Red has no way of telling which universe we're in, Magic frowned. He has essentially every power we can imagine. I am willing to bet that he can see which universe we are in without difficulty. He wouldn't give up on absorbing us, Gray interjected. The other two nodded their agreement. Magic raised a finger. He has either changed his tactics and will show up when we drop our guard, or something has him very occupied. What do we do then? Twinkle asked. Gray drew one of her swords, examining them casually. We take advantage of this, like we have been doing. After Junior is fully rested, we can prepare. Hypothetically, if Red moved on or was distracted, how would we even find him? Twinkle asked. Magic laughed. I can track him easier than he can track us. My magic is far stronger than any other Clemo. Therefore, my magic is far stronger than Red's. Magic began to conjure a spell, which the other two Clemos only assumed to be a tracking spell. Twinkle chuckled. If we were not the best Clemos, we would have been taken by him by now. Gray waved her hand to silence Twinkle and Magic. We shouldn't talk like that. True or not, it doesn't matter. The other two nodded their agreement. Red has that mentality, and we're going to avoid that. Magic ceased conjuring. Not to contradict myself, but Red could in theory stay hidden if he truly wanted to. You just said you could find him, Gray said impatiently. Yes, I know, but after searching using several spells, I cannot find him. I did not honestly believe he cared about staying hidden. Apparently, he is powerful enough to hide even from my magic. Twinkle shook his head. That doesn't sound right. 1,000,000 identical versions of him are avoiding detection? Magic held his hands out to the sides, cocking his head. I know, but the only other possibility I can imagine is some god has intervened. Guardian, Sabin, Loth, Garyx, or Jason? Gray asked. Did you honestly need to ask? Twinkle said. Hours passed within this tavern. Junior stood up, fully rested. What's the plan?
Turning to Junior Climo, the other three were about to respond, but instead were interrupted by the arrival of a bright light appearing on the other side of the room. Naturally, their reflexes took over as they drew their weapons.
You are given a choice.
Junior recognized that voice.
Everyone, it's Jason.
Magic held his hand out to the youngest Climo to silence him. It doesn't matter, Junior. His hands lit up with arcane power, ready to fight. If this god has sought us to challenge us, we will give him his money's worth.
What do you want?
Gray demanded, with her swords at the ready.
Red will no longer be a problem for you,
the Metamind said as his physical form materialized out of the light. The light dimmed down, allowing the four Climos to see his tattooed face. The magic and psychic tattoos all over his skin were difficult for three of four of these Climos to identify. Standing next to this god were two people. One man in red robes the Climos did not recognize, and the other Red Climo.
Well, now we know,
Twinkle said. The Metamind waved his hand, sending psychic energy to the four Climos, which hindered their movement, psychic abilities, and magic. They were forced to listen.
You have two options. You have helped me in the past, so I will not force you like I am forcing Red. I could use your help. However, if you truly have no desire to work for me, then you are free to go. I do not have time to debate.
Waving his hand a second time, he dismissed a psychic hold over them, allowing them to speak.
Is a god actually asking for help?
Magic asks. I want to hear this. The cavern of the cult of Garyx. Everything is dark. A hood was removed from its head, allowing the victim to see. His eyes were slow to adjust as he heard someone talking to him.
You are unworthy. But you are lucky, the stranger said.
Who are you?
With things slowly coming into focus, details of the stranger formed before him. This man had a face shaped like a man, yet not of a man. It was akin to a reptile. Additional details could not be made out, but other figures were coming into focus as well. They had the same kind of face. These scaled reptilian men looked down upon the man. They had him surrounded and bound.
We are your salvation or your damnation.
What is going on?
A second man said, who until this moment was unnoticed. The first man looked at him, realizing that another human is a prisoner with him as well. He looked back at his reptilian kidnappers.
What do you lizard men want? He demanded. Lizard! How dare you?
The main reptilian man fumed with anger. A small fire shot out of one of his nostrils.
We are dragons!
All of the grotesque reptilian men raised their wings up in pride. They all chanted the same name repeatedly.
Garyx! And you too can be like us. I was powerful like you. I was a weak human like you. Now I am powerful. I am Lazan. You want to know what we want?
Yes, the man shouted.
I want you to be one of us,
Lazan said.
This is insane. I'm not going to be a lizard,
the second man yelled. Lazan casually waved his hand at the second man while looking at the first man. The draconic guard behind him used his claw to slash the second man's throat. Lazan continued to look at the first man while the second bled out, having no way to stop his own death.
We are dragons. Tell me, human, do you wish to be a dragon too?
This living human hesitated for a moment. He struggled to find the words. The scene before him attempted to process through his mind in sheer panic and desperation. The man responded, Yes, make me a dragon. Lazan smiled, waving his hand again. A book was placed before the man. The man stared at it, confused. We need you to willingly read this. I will never force the transformation on you. You must want to want it. I know you speak out of desperation. However, I promise that after reading this, you truly will want to be one of us. Now, be a good boy and read. The book had on the cover the symbol of Garyx, the fiery dragon's eye. The leather was black, and the interior was full of pages. Having no other choice, the man used his nervous, shaking hand to open the cover. Too afraid to look, his eyes were tightly shut. Open your eyes and read, Lazan demanded in a soft voice. The human slowly opened his eyes, too terrified to defy this dragon man like the other human did. His eyes looked into the Book of Garyx. After 3 minutes, he looked up with his eyes glowing brightly. He was smiling. Garyx has blessed me with his word. Please return chaos into my life. Releasing the bonds that held this man, the guards helped him to his feet. Lazan approached this man, and the two hugged. Welcome, my brother. You will soon be one of us. When may I join my brothers and sisters in my transformation? The man asked. After you incubate like everyone else. This will be painful, but the pain will be joyful, as you know you will soon be your true self after your rebirth. Lazan stepped back, letting the man go. Extending his claw, he plunged into the man, allowing the liquid, dark, oily substance to seep out and cover him. Take him to the others. Bring me the next 2. Lazan waved his hand as he ordered. End of chapter 8.